name's Leroy Blevins. Welcome to Mysteries and Histories. In this episode here, what I want to do is I want to go switch a little bit to the paranormal, and I'm going to give out some advice for people that's trying to get in to the paranormal research. And what I'm going to do is explain some of the do's and don'ts, okay? And in this episode here, we're going to talk about EVPs or spirit boxes, okay? One, I've been in the paranormal research for over 20 years now, and I've seen the spirit boxes. I've done tests on them, spirit boxes. I don't use spirit boxes, and there's a reason why. Is because, see, it picks up radio frequencies, okay? Just like you can, as you see on TV, a lot of these shows and stuff where they'll sit there and they'll ask a question, but the answers they get back is really not to that question. They presume it's to that question, but it's really not to that question. Like, they'll say, how you died? And then they'll say, and then a voice come up on the recorder, her or him or he did it, or, stuff like that. They're going to presume, oh, this is what they're saying, or what they're saying. Actually, when I had one of them spirit boxes, I done a little test, and actually I threw it away after that, after I did the test, because to me it wouldn't do no good. You have to take consideration that these spirit boxes picks up, frequencies, radio frequencies. And like, say if someone's on a cell phone, and nowadays society, everybody has a cell phone, and they're always constantly on that cell phone talking, whether in a car or anything else. So say you're in a house, you're doing an investigation, you have that spirit box going, there could be somebody a mile down the road, and that frequency is passing by that house that you're in. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick up certain words from that cell phone that's being used up the street. And when you're doing investigations, you're supposed to be looking for facts, not, you have to look at everything from different angles. And when you're using a spirit box, you're just picking up probably frequencies from somebody talking down the street. And remember, there's cell phone towers all over the place, and that signal's going in every different directions. And you could be picking up somebody's phone call, and to you, you would think you're picking up, someone talking to you, but then again, it could be somebody talking to somebody else, and you just pick up that one phrase or that one word that's being transmitted from that phone, cell phone. So that's why, because I done a test on it where I put somebody like 2 blocks down, and I turned on the spirit box, and I was listening to it, and I had them call, make sure they crossed another person on this side of the house, another person on the other side of the house. I've done this a few years ago. You got a person on this side of the house, another person on this side of the house, and they're using cell phones. And when they was using their cell phones, I actually had that spirit box going, and I was picking up words because they was recording themselves too at the same time when they was talking, and we're putting it on time frame. And the words I was picking up on the spirit box was words they was actually saying to each other. So to use a spirit box, we cannot actually use that as evidence, because we could be picking up somebody's cell phone, or a radio station down the street, or somewhere. Same thing is for EVPs. Everybody knows that sounds travels, okay? When you can say one word like hi. Now that is going to bounce off the wall, and bounce off the other wall, and bounce off the other wall, and just keep on bouncing back and forth all over the room. And that sound just gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, but that sound is still there. So if you're going into a place that's like 100 years old, and there's been people in and out of there all the time, okay, and they're talking in there, everything that's been mentioned in that room is just going to bounce back and forth in every different direction. You got words hitting words, hit this word hitting that word. That's why when you do EVPs, and the more you got to talk, another thing you got to realize that the longer the question is and the more people's talking, they use these EVPs. All you're going to do is, like, if I say hi again, eventually that hi is going to hit that other word that was said years ago, and we're not going to be able to hear it, but we'll pick it up on this. So I'll say hi one day, I'll leave that room, stay gone, say for a couple weeks, come back, and if I say hi again, that word is going to vibrate off the other word that's actually bouncing still in there from me being in there 2 weeks prior, and I'm going to pick it up on EVP, where if I say hi and I got the EVP going, all of a sudden you'll hear a word go, hi. I've done tests on this. That's why when I use the EVPs machines, I keep them to a minimum on the questions. I usually use anywhere from 2 to 3 words. That's it in a question, because the more words you use, you don't want to repeat a word that's been repeated in that house before. So when you do pick up an EVP, you're actually picking up from the spirit, not from yourself or what was said in that room years ago. People's got to understand this when you do this stuff. And if you're a serious researcher and you want to do this for a living or as a hobby, a side hobby and stuff, there's certain things you should know before you go into that, spending tons of thousands of dollars on all this fancy equipment, because there's no sense in it. Because what you're going to be picking up is somebody said something years ago. So just like when you hear, like if you watch these TV shows, you hear somebody says, "Hey, did you hear that?" And there's talking, they got the EVP going, or their EVP recorder going, and then they're going to say, "Hey, did you hear that?" But there's tons of people talking at one time. And then when they ask a question, they'll come up and say, "Was you murdered here? Was you murdered in this room? Was you murdered by this certain person?" In this whole sentence. And all they're doing is just, playing that game of hoping another word picks up on there. Yeah, there's sometimes if you go into a room and you don't say that much words, you keep it to a minimum, you're not going to pick up an EVP if you stay quiet. Okay, but if as soon as you start talking, that's when the EVPs are going to start happening, because that's why they were so close to every time someone records, they're so close. So that's why I keep my questions to a minimum when I'm using the EVP. I'm keeping them close together. Less words I use, I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so these are the things you have to look out for, and then keep a big gap in between your questions. Like, say you was going in there and you say, "What is your name?" Don't say a word. Keep at least a minute in between that pause. Okay, because if you don't, you start overriding yourself and you start talking again, you're going to get something else on this EVP that you don't want, because it's never going to ask you questions. And number 2, when you're going into, now this is separating the fact from, fantasy. When you go into a spot like a house, don't talk to your owners first. Okay, ask me, can you go in there and do your investigation, but don't ask them no questions. Don't let them tell you nothing about it, or anybody else with you. Don't let nobody say nothing to them. And here's the reason why. Because everybody heard of subliminal messages, that if someone, that's why they have all these commercials and stuff, they put that message out to get in your brain, and next thing you know, you're going to be feeling the same thing or wanting the same thing or anything else. So when you go into a house, okay, the only way to separate the truth and the facts is by you go in that house, you say, "Hey, can I do a paranormal investigation in your house?" And you go in there and you do, and you don't ask no questions. "Hey, what happened in this room?" Don't ask no questions. Don't even look up anything on it until you do your paranormal investigations. And after you're done, then you sit down with the homeowner or a business owner or whoever it is, and you ask them questions like, "Did you feel anything in any of the rooms?" Now, if they go, okay, say if you were in there and you do an investigation, you go in there and you felt something grab your arm or push you back or grab your hair, say in the bedroom. in the master bedroom. We're going to say the master bedroom. Okay. Then when we go to homeowner after we're done our investigation, then you ask them, hey, did you feel anything strange in any of the rooms? Okay. Now, if they come off and say, yeah, I felt this in the kitchen, or if I felt this in the dining room, okay, then you're going to say, okay. But then when they say, if I come up with the same answers you did, that you found out yourself by physical, and they said, well, in the master bedroom, we have a lot of physical problems there where, it feels like people's touching you or pulling your hair or whatever, then you know that's the fact. That's the truth, because you just experienced that yourself before they said anything. And plus, number two is I noticed that when you go into a paranormal investigations, and you can see this on TV as well, they'll sit there and they'll go, they'll go talk to the homeowners or the business owners, and they'll come in here and say, well, I felt this and I felt that and I felt this, or this happened to me in this room or this happened to me in this room. And then when you watch them, when they start doing their paranormal investigation, they'll sit there and they'll go in this one room, and it says, in this one location, because they said this is where, when they're doing their interview, this is right in this spot here, something just grabbed the back of my hair and just pulled. Okay. Then when they start filming and doing their investigations and stuff like that, they'll go over in that one spot and they'll film themselves sitting there and they say, wait a minute, something just pulled my hair. Then you'll hear another guy in the background or something say, hey, ain't that the spot where, that one person said that they had their hair pulled and stuff? Oh man, how? You're actually not getting true facts. All you're doing is just you're reliving what someone else is going through in your mind. Okay. Or they'll try to do that just to push off that paranormal. Another thing that always bothers me when I did paranormal investigations, I have seen spirits, and I've seen a lot of them. And one thing I never did understand is when I see an apparition, I see in the face, you can see the face, you can see the hands, and some of the arms, you can see the feet and stuff, and partial of the legs, but the body is more like a mist. You don't, it's hard to see anything there. Just a white mist with these two hands and his feet and his head. Now, when I do my paranormal investigations and stuff like that, that's what I look for. Now, when people comes up to you, and you ever notice this, a paranormal investigator never really sees what these people see, because these people say, well, I seen the spirit. It was dressed up in this kind of outfit. It had this hat on and everything else. Now, I cannot believe that too much. And here's the reason why. Everybody knows that humans have souls. That's a spirit. That's your spirit is your soul. Okay. Now, everybody else also knows that clothing is no spirit. It's just clothing. It's just an object. Okay, so a spirit was not, if you're going to see a natural spirit, if someone come up to me, now there's been actually people that I did paranormal investigations in their house, did tell me, hey, I seen a ghost, a spirit, but it's kind of funny. And I said, why is that? And they said, well, it didn't have no clothes on. It was more or less naked. I tend to believe that more than when someone tells me they seen something with a certain clothes on. Because, like I pointed out, a spirit is a soul from a person that's trapped on earth here. And a person has a soul, and that soul is a spirit. Clothes is not a spirit, and it's not a soul. It's just a plain object. So these are things you want to look out for when you do your investigations and stuff. There is spirits out there, and you can capture some on EVP, but to me, the best EVP machines you can use is more or less like tapes, cassette players, use them little mini cassettes. Them are the best ones to pick up on, because that's going to actually bring it to it. Now, another thing you want to watch out for is when you do your filming, okay, and you have to understand this as well, that a lot of people doesn't know or understand, that when you're taking these cameras and you got these night visions going and you're recording, okay, all my recorders, all my cameras I use in my paranormal investigations is Bell Howell, because they do make a great camera. As you see here, they make a great camera. It's touchscreen. They make excellent cameras. Um, when you do when you film, you have to watch yourself at the same time, because what they're not going to explain to you is what you captured here, you could take home with you. So if there is demonic presence in a house, okay, you're going to capture it. If you capture that demonic presence on this camera, remember that vibe, that energy goes into that film or into this, just like right here. I'll pull this out. Oh, it's on the bottom here. That energy will be placed in this. Then you go home, or if you're still there, you put it in the computer. Now that bad energy and that bad vibe and that demonic presence is still going to be there, but you're going to have part of it still trapped in here. And you're also going to have it in your machine now. You're going to have a computer. That's why if you heard the stories of a lot of paranormal investigators, when they go out and do their research, they bring a demonic presence. If it's a bad place, they'll bring a demonic presence home with them. Is because the objects, it's not because of them themselves, it's the objects that they filmed them on. Just like the worst thing you can do is actually film something, and this is what a scary thought is, and people can say whatever they want, but this is the facts when it comes to paranormal. And everybody in the paranormal business knows this, that a spirit strives off of electricity. They strive off of your body and electricity around. And when you go out there and you start doing investigations and you're filming this, say if you was filming it live and stuff, how do you know that you're not taking that bad vibe or that bad spirit and transporting it to other people's homes through their TVs or through their computers or anything else? So when it comes to paranormal investigations, there's a lot of things you have to look at and take into consideration. Now, there is ways you can keep that presence there. Is one, you don't attempt to argue with it or interrupt it or destroy, go in there and start screaming top of your lungs just to get that activation going there. Okay, you don't want to bring that demonic presence home with you. Okay, and it's not mostly brought upon you because you could wear a crucifix into a place, but it's still, there's people that actually did wear a crucifix into a place and stuff, and they're wondering why that presence still followed them home. Is because they either followed them home by using their camera, because it's trapped in there. Part of it is trapped in there. I just want to make this video here to give somebody some advice on what they should look for, what they should not look for, and how to protect themselves. Watch yourself. Now, if usually when I do a paranormal investigations, when it comes to my cameras and stuff, I'll download them on a computer and or on a laptop with me. And after I get done doing that, I download onto another computer from that, because I'll delete that part out. And sometimes I don't reuse the cards. I throw them cards away, the USB cards. And when I get done downloading off of there onto something else, I'll delete that original one off of that one. And I just have a copy of it, which I don't have to worry about bringing none of that stuff home with me. So there's a lot of ways you can do things, when it comes to paranormal investigations. And like I said, when you go into a place, and if you're going to use an EVP machine, EVP recorder, excuse me, if you're going to use one of these, best thing to do is keep your questions limited. Don't, come off with the whole phrase and the whole sentence. And remember, when you start hearing, you also want to tell your people that's with you, if you're going to walk through a building and stuff, and you hear like footsteps or something hitting against thing, instead of sitting there, hey man, be quiet, I hear this, don't say that. What you want to do is you go in there and you say, before you go into to do an investigation, go ahead and have one word. Okay, if you have one word, that'll let everybody know, hey, you stop. You don't say a word, you keep quiet. Okay, usually the words I usually use is like one or two. Okay, one means stop. If I say two, stop and shut up, don't say a word, don't move or anything. I tell all this before we go in. So when that word, if it's either me or somebody else, says one or two, we know what we should have to do. Either keep quiet or whatever and start looking around. If we hear footsteps or if we hear, even if we hear moans or whispers or singing or any kind of, if you come up on anything. So that's another thing you want to think about before you go in and do your paranormal investigations. You want to just have signals that you can send to one another, because remember, in your dark room, it's hard to see anything. The only thing you can see is through the screen of your night vision camera. You want to let everybody know what you got to do. So come up with your own signals to let everybody know, so everybody could, so you ain't going to capture false stuff on your film or on your recorder stuff. When you record something, it's best to have a laptop with you, put it on that laptop, and then transfer that from that laptop to another, then make another copy to another disk or stick, then take that stick out, then delete that one, stick the device into another computer, then you're all right. It shouldn't, that demonic presence should not travel like that. So just giving you a bit of advice on paranormal and EVP, what to do and what to look out for. And thank you. Good night.